live, and then just make sure we're live on Facebook. So we'll give it a couple seconds here.
Don't move, Käären.
Okay, I believe that we are live. Let me just double check. Yes. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our RunVenture Facebook Live series for the 6th episode of 2021. My name is Kim Levinsky, and I am the owner and race director for Sassquad Trail Runners in New Jersey. And tonight we are joined by ultra running legend Trishul Cherns. So before we give Trishul his squatchy introduction, I'm going to take a few minutes to share some updates with you on what is going on in the wonderful world of Sassquad trail running. So first up, our next trail race is at the South Mountain Reservation in West Orange, New Jersey. It's a brand new race in our series. It is called the Squatch Apple Trail Race. So there's the May Apple, that's typically in May. This year it's postponed. There's the Feb Apple, which is in February, and now we've got the Squatch Apple stepping in. So this race is on Saturday, April 10th. We have an 11 miler, a 20 miler, 33 miler, and a 50 miler. So the way this race is set up, there's 3 different loops. They range from 4 miles is the first loop, 5.5 miles is the second loop, and the third loop is 7 miles. So there's over 16 miles of unique trails that you're going to be using for this event. Registration is filling up quickly. We've already had a couple of the slots that have sold out, but we have some spots left on ultrasignup.com. The name of that race is the Squatch Apple. So unfortunately, we had to cancel our annual beach race called the Sand Squatch. That's every year, the first weekend of May down at Island Beach State Park. But we are replacing it this year with the Thunder Chicken Squatch at Stoke State Forest in Branchville, New Jersey. I can't say that name without laughing. There's a really fun backstory to it. I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. If you did not know, the month of May is National Military Appreciation Month. So we're celebrating that at our event, the Thunder Chicken Squatch, by offering 50% off to all military and veterans. So the name Thunder Chicken comes from our most recent interview that we had 2 weeks ago with active duty Army soldier Samantha DeRozier. She is one of our runners. She has since moved out of the state because of her job with the Army. But during the interview, she shared a hilarious story about how she got her Army call sign, which is Thunder Chicken. So call sign is the name that soldiers will use when they're on the radio, and Sam's is Thunder Chicken. So we thought it was only fitting to name our May race after her call sign because it's Military Appreciation Month. We're offering that discount to our military and veterans. So I encourage you to catch the replay of that interview. You can watch the video, it's on our Facebook page, or you can catch the replay on our podcast, Sassquad Trail Runners Podcast. And the story is around the 50-minute mark. So if you queue up to the 50 minutes, you'll hear the story of Thunder Chicken. Later in June, on the last Sunday of the month, we are hosting the Midnight Squatchapalooza at the Burlington County Fairgrounds in Columbus, New Jersey. We had to cancel this last year because of COVID restrictions with the permit, but we are looking good for this year. I just spoke and had a very great conversation with the fairgrounds director, who said that the event is likely going to be approved in the next week or 2. New Jersey just increased outdoor gathering limits, so I expect that we will be good to go for that race. We still have it set up on Ultra Sign Up with a delayed charge to your credit card, and I'm not going to change that until I have the permit in my hand. And then we'll send out an email blast to everyone who's pre-registered, and you'll have the option to accept your spot or deny it. When you accept it, that's when your credit card is going to be charged. You can learn more about the rest of our events for 2021 by going to our website, which is sassquadtrailrunning.com. Okay, so that about wraps it up for the Sassquad updates. So now the reason you are all here, Trishul, I met him 2 summers ago when I volunteered at his race, the Great New York 100, which if you have not heard about that race, you need to get online right now, social media, you can find the website, just search for Great New York 100. I'm a big fan of the race, even though I don't like road running. I think it's a fantastic event. Trishul is the co-race director with Phil McCarthy, who is also an ultra running legend. So I got to meet Trishul and his wife Käären at Times Square around 3 or 4 in the morning. I think it was. I was helping out with check-in. So along with a few other volunteers, we helped move half of the drop bags up to a hotel room that was a few blocks away. And then the rest got crammed into a car that Trishul and his wife were driving. I wish I could have dug out the picture. I couldn't find it, but it was quite a sight to see with just, I mean, floor to ceiling of drop bags. And then the two of them were crammed in the car, driving it to different aid stations along the course. So I reconnected with Trishul a few weeks ago when our mutual friend and my fellow race director, Vanessa Klein, suggested that we interview him on our interview series. So shout out to Vanessa for reconnecting us. I mean this from the bottom of my heart. It is truly an honor to have him on our interview series and podcast. So I'm going to read a short bio for him to help paint the picture of who he is as an ultra runner. And I will tell you right now that we would be here all night if I read all of his accomplishments. So just know that this is a very abbreviated bio, and these are just a few of the highlights of his career. So here we go. Trishul is one of Canada's most accomplished ultramarathoners. In 1985, he held every Canadian record from 300K to 1,000 miles and still holds many of those records today. He has completed the Self-Transcendence race, which is a 3,100-mile race, 3 times with a personal best of 50 days and 3 hours in 1999. As of February 2021, Trishul has completed 280 ultramarathons, totaling 44,338 ultramarathon racing miles. His first ultra was a hilly 47-mile road race on August 27th, 1978, where he placed 3rd out of 58 starters in 6 hours and 30 minutes. A former monk and current masseuse, Trishul lives in Queens, New York with his wife, Käären. Trishul is the co-race director of the Great New York 100, which I mentioned just before. So Trishul, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. That's very kind.
It was, and I've shared with you, I had so much fun reading all of the articles about you. It's a long list of publications that are out there that have highlighted who you are and your career.
Yeah, I'm always honored, and I feel privileged when each person can recognize a little of what I've done. You know, I'm very proud of what I've done and look forward to the future for more great accomplishments.
Fantastic. So I know the bio that I just gave is now a little bit outdated because it had your numbers as of February, and I know you just ran at the New Jersey Ultra Fest. So do you know what your totals are now current as of today?
282 en route to 500 plus. I like to do in my running career 500 ultramarathon completions. And for those that don't know what an ultramarathon is, it's 30 miles plus, according to Andy Milroy from the IAU. And I would like to run over 100,000 ultramarathon racing kilometers, which is about 62,000. I'm at 44 right now. And I would like to do it for over 60 years. And if I can do it over 70 years, I will. The record for the longevity record, which is what I really would like to get, is 59 years. So to do over 70, someone's got to live that long to do it. So I started when I was 21 years old, my first ultramarathon. My first marathon was in 1977. Where I ran 3 hours and 8 minutes at the New York City Marathon. So I'm happy to keep going. You know, I'm just used to run to compete. Now I run to complete.
That's awesome. And I'm going to preface this whole interview by telling you guys who are listening that I know already we're going to run out of time because there's so many things that we can cover tonight, but we are going to focus primarily on your multi-day accomplishments because you've told me that's the highlight of your career. But before we get there, I have a question that I prepared that I'm excited to hear. Okay, so you are writing your autobiography. What is chapter 1? of your autobiography? How are you setting the stage of your life story?
Well, it's all about my spirituality. Meditation was what I was originally seeking because I was interested in my inner life, since I was a young boy. And so I got interested in Eastern philosophy and went to a meditation center, the Sri Chinmoy Center, which was one of the best things that happened to me at that time. And, I was intrigued on all about spirituality. So I studied a lot of different religions and so forth. And so, but I'm a very dynamic type of person and I can't sit still. I can only be so long, so I had to do. And so running was a great extension of my spiritual life. It just felt like a great release from just sitting there. I had to do moving. So it became like a moving meditation. And when I really can zone in, I really can focus in on my whole inner, my whole inner chapter. So it starts off definitely with my spiritual pursuits. And when I run an ultra marathon, the longer it is, the more I can get into a nice spiritual consciousness with it. And if I listen to some nice music, I really can tune up my mind and tune into my spiritual heart, and my running heart, so it's kind of, I love going long, always have. To me, it was not about so much how fast you can go. My times are okay, but it's how far I could go. I think my best 5K was 17, and my best 10K was 35:50. And back then I remember running 60 flat for 10 miles. And then I said, gosh, I wish this was a marathon at that time. So now, but I've always been intrigued how far I could go, how many miles I can put in a week comfortably, or so as when I heard there was a 47-mile race, I said, oh, wow, I was the second to sign up, and I did well in it. And I beat a lot of guys that were a lot faster marathoners because it was a hilly course, but I felt like I kept going. And when I finished, I wasn't wiped out. I said, okay, that's cool. Now what? And so 2 weeks later, I started doing I said, I'm gonna see how far I can go. So I think I did on a track, someone counted me. This is an official race, but I did 90 straight miles. I said, okay, I had enough for today. And it took me about 20 hours. I was just sleepy. I said, okay, time to go to bed. And then I heard about I spoke to a guy called Nick Marshall, and I asked him, is there any real official long races? He said, well, there's these things now, 24-hour runs. And I thought about it. I said, that'd be cool to go for 100 miles in a day. And I entered one, and the first time I wasn't successful. I wanted to see what the experience was like. So I did like 3 marathons straight. And then I said, okay, I see what this is about, and I'm going to try to do 100 miles in a day. And I think I did 102 miles. And out of the field of 40, I was like 20th, and I was so pleased. And then I tried other ultras, and then I, 50K, and saw what the standard was for around a 3-hour marathon. My best is 3:02:06, and that was just a sub 7-minute mile. So I was just an average marathoner who was intrigued and see how far he could go.
Mm. Can we backtrack one? We got a question that already popped up in the live chat. This is from Ryan Thorpe, and it touches a little bit on the spiritual side that you were just talking about. He wanted to know if your name Trishul, is that your spiritual name?
Yes.
If so, did you go by another name before then?
Okay, my English name is Lorne, like Lorne Green or Lauren Michaels from Canada, Lorne, and Sri Chinmoy gave me the name in 1981. And so it's Trishul, and Trishul means ignorance piercing weapon, which conquers all the wrong forces of the world for God. And so that's what it meant. I liked it. I really love it, because how many Trishuls do you know? In this country.
You're the only one I know.
Yeah, that's it. And it's a Sanskrit name. And so I come from a Jewish background, but I always considered myself a Hindu. So
awesome.
Yeah. But
yeah. Okay. Ryan, so there you go. That's your answer for that. So another question for you. What was it about the longer distances that was attractive to you? Because obviously you kept doing it and you kept going longer and longer. So what was it that, you know, really piqued your interest and got you invested in it?
Well, you know, it came from within myself. You know, I just said, wow, I got such satisfaction and fulfillment when I finished each race. So to me, it was about the journey, not so much how fast you could go. I didn't do badly, you know, but I just, and I was competitive, you know. I'm quite a goal-oriented person, and I am a very competitive person. So that wasn't the problem, but I was so intrigued by how far I could go. I don't know, it just kind of, it's like when you reach one goal, and then I said, okay, how much farther can I go, you know, comfortably? And I always approached it peacefully and comfortably, you know, not balls to the wall, you know, not going all out. You know, I always held back. And even in my marathons, they never matched my short distance races. I should have been a much faster marathoner, but I didn't care. You know, to me, it was just, you run the short races, you go all out. When you run the long races, you know, I hold back and I just say, I look at the scenery, I look, you know, what's ahead of me. It's just fun and games. It's much more fun. So I was looking for just lots of fun. I guess I'm a party animal or
Yeah.
a glutton for punishment. I don't know, but they're never torture for me. You know, if they start to be, you know, hard work, real hard work, I figure a way to make it not so hard. You know, whether it's nutrition or just mindset or emotional being, you know. And I approach these ultras not just as a physical run, but as an emotional pursuit and a mental pursuit and a spiritual pursuit. And that's the main thing. It's a spiritual pursuit. I'm not talking religious, I'm talking spiritual. So it's kind of like a real self-expansion to it.
Okay. And when did you start? So you did the 50 or 50 so, and then you went out for the 90, and then you did the 24-hour. What happened after that? How far ahead did you jump ahead?
Okay, so after that was in 1978. Then I tried a 33-mile race, and I came, I think, 4th. And then I was intrigued by first the 50K. I said, wow, can I get this under 4 hours? And then I did 3:57. Wow. And then I think I hit the 50K in 4:02. And then I said, oh, that was cool. That was a real good experience in 1980. And then I tried a 50K. Then I went to Central Park and did the 60K. And I was hitting my running goals. Like I just remember doing a 2-mile race, and I hit 11 flat for the 2 miles. And I was so frustrated. I said, man, I wanted to go under 11. And I did just 11 flat, or, you know, running 60 flat for a 10-mile race. And then I said, you know, I wasn't so satisfied. But then I said, the longer I went, the better satisfaction I got. And so after the 33-mile race, I tried a 24-hour, and then, you know, I tried all different distances. And I thought I remember running and I reached all the goals, like a 12-hour race. You know, I would come 3rd in the race and cover like 76 3/4 miles, or, you know, so my times weren't okay. I called myself an average marathoner, but a good ultra runner. But when it came to the multi-days, I wanted to see how I could do against the world's best. And I had the first experience in 1983 at the New York Roadrunners Club 6-day race, and the best in the world were there. So when I came 6th and beat the ultra legend Don Choi, and then was 2 miles from Dave Dowdle, who was the world record holder at the time for 24 hours, I said, this is cool. Wow, look how I did against the world's best. Then I went to the next multi-day, and I kept transcending each one. So the first was like 445 miles, and the next one was like 457, then 479. I'm a numbers guy. It's all big numbers. And then when I broke 500 miles, that was the world-class standard. And I got myself up to about 538 miles. And I was also intrigued. Okay, I broke 500 miles. Now, look how much farther can I go? And then I created the 1,000-mile race, the first one in modern times, which I asked Richard Moy, can we put this on? And he did. And it was in this century, it was the first certified 1,000. So there were 2 previous ones held.
And you invented it. You're saying that so
Yes.
casually. Like I just invented the 1,000-mile.
Yeah, because
it's amazing.
Because there was only 6-day races. So I said,
Right.
and I believe in, certified courses, and it has to be accurate. I'm very puritanical that way. And, I was for 30 years a statistician for Ultrarunning magazine. So people look back on those old issues, you'll see Andy Milroy, Trishul, Cherns, and so forth. So I really believe in accuracy, as Ted Corbett did. And so I wanted it a certified 1,000, and we had a great race. But the following year was one of the classics, and that was when Stu Middleman showed up. And these are names you guys haven't heard of, but these were the best in the world. These are the best guys. And we really took the level down. I think my first 1,000 was in 15 days, 9 hours. Then the next year I took it to 13 days, 7 hours. And that's where the big boys go. And so I was really pleased to be able to run with the world's best. At least I looked at it this way, that, I felt comfortable to share the track with them. And then, it's like after that, Shrich and Moy announced a 1,300-mile race. So I tried that. And then the 2,700-mile race. And when the 3,100-mile race happened, that was great. It was great. I was very, very pleased. So I've always I've just been fascinated how far I could go, but I've also was interested in time events and how far can I do in a time event. But I also dabble with trails, and it's like when I moved out to Colorado, I of course I've heard about the Leadville Trail 100, and at that time I was pursuing this beautiful woman who ended up being my wife. And I have to say, best thing that ever happened to me, absolutely, with it, hands down. It's my life was enhanced, and with Käären in it, and I hope I enhanced her life. I did get a great deal, so I'm not sure about her, but I got the great deal. And she really was I think the world's greatest handler, and I've ever had, because she I can think something and she picks up on it and gives me the right thing, so that I need during a race. But I love the races. I used to run them fast, but now I'm more of a power walker, I have to admit, and I'm enjoying that right now. And now getting to the multi-days, people are going to ask, oh, what does it take to be a good multi-day runner? And what I like about it, after the 3 days, everything's equal, because speed doesn't matter anymore. It's like we're all pretty much going at the same pace. So time management's important. So having a handler, or good nutrition. And I'm really always look at the cutting edge of great nutrition, and sleep deprivation, which I'm good at. My philosophy is, when you snooze, you lose. So and I don't mind the hallucinations. I call it LSD, long, slow distance, So I love the, I don't mind the sleep hallucinations. And, nowadays it's John Giesler, but when in my day as a good multi-day runner, I could outdo him. So I'm even competitive with John Giesler's sleep deprivation tactics. But you have to be a good good at sleep deprivation, and the most important thing, you got to be a great walker. And all the best multi-day runners in the world could walk strongly. I remember I used to do a 12-hour race walk with Wyndham with good form and cover about 100K in that 12 hours. And that's race walking. So my best, as I said, 12-hour running was 76 3/4, and my best walk was 63 miles. So
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, you have to be a good walker. And I learned from Howard Jacobson, who was an Olympic coach. He taught me what the right form is, and how to race walk, and then how to power walk. So that's a little bit of the direction I went. And I've had a lot of wonderful experiences by meeting some great people. And that's how I met my wife at a 6-day race in France. So
that's awesome. Can we back up a little bit to the 3,100-mile race?
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, maybe provide a little bit of background, because I'm sure that everyone listening might not be familiar with it. So maybe chat a little bit about what the race is, the parameters of the event, and then I would love to hear your experience. I mean, you did it 3 times, and then also, you know, maybe you could talk about the other people in the race and
Of course, sure. Okay.
mine. It's just hard for me to wrap my mind around that 3,100 miles.
Well, it's not wrapping your mind around it because you can't. So the first thing is, and I'll give you the history of it, is you've got to learn how to be in the moment, and you take it day by day. So we took the, most of us just took it day by day. We didn't think of the yesterday or tomorrow. We think about that day. We didn't think in miles. We would think in laps because it's on a 1 kilometer loop, little more than a 1 kilometer loop. So we're circling around 5,600 times on this 1 kilometer loop. And we had first time we did it was a 51-day cutoff. And so one thing about this race is you've got to be consistent. And that is one of my main strengths as a multi-day runner. You know, I try to be very consistent. I don't try to go beyond myself, but and so how it was created was, first there was a 2,700 mile race, which I did. And it took me 45 days. And then Sri Chamoy always loved to up the ante. And he was my type of guy because I love upping the ante too. So I was happy to do the 3rd edition. I did allow a couple of years between to recover and to get the training back and you know, get other ultras in. But after the 2,700 mile race, I loved that experience. And then when I did the 3,100, I was raring to go. And but they did have some great people there, and also the experiences that I learned. They weren't always easy. It's not. I'm being very honest about this. That like at the 2,700 mile race, and this is a cool kind of a very interesting thing, was I ended up after about 700 miles got shin splints because it's a concrete surface. So we're going around in the heat of the summer, and it could be hot weather, on a mundane course. And it wasn't, to me, it wasn't a mundane course. It was, you know, always something happening because something always is happening. It's not, there was a lot of people around.
Right.
And but the thing was I ended up with shin splints because we're on a concrete sidewalk. It's not the road. And there's a huge difference between asphalt and concrete. And our shoes would wear out. You know, you think 3 pairs are enough. No, you need about 15 pairs of shoes.
15 pairs of shoes.
Yeah. You think usually shoes would last me 1,000 miles. No, on this concrete surface, they last like 300-400 miles, and that's it. And they wear down and on to the next one. And so I ended up with shin splints, and they were very painful. So I knew there was a time restraint on this event. And you know, I was, I think, in 3rd place at the time, and I was in 5th place. And I just remembered, and this was a cool experience, is I'm not going to let this, I'm not going to bottom out in this race. I refused to bottom out in this race. And so I started invoking my spiritual power within myself. I said, here I've been meditating for years and years, and let's use it to take this pain that's in my shin and throw it into the earth. And I just focused on that. I did some chanting too. And I just said, in a very, very positive state, and I just said, you are not a part of me, shin splints. You are to leave me. I don't want you, and I don't need you, and you shall leave. And I did that maybe for 2 days and started to go. And so I started recovering very, very fast. So I mended from the shin splints, and I really, with my heart and my soul and my whole being, I was determined to get rid of this. But also I got a little help from my friend who said, okay, Trish, you're still in a little bit of pain. I know I have this Chinese doctor, he could come and see you and he could fix you up to get you over the edge. So his name was Dr. Chur. And I said, okay, cool. Dr. Chur is going to have the cure. so you know, he said, okay, let's go in the van. And he says, I can give you some stuff, some Chinese herbs. I said, oh, great. I thought I was going to take them through the mouth. No, he had a needle, and he started taking rubbing alcohol, And right on those painful shin splints, he says, I'm going to be putting it in here. And I said, oh, Jesus, mother of God, there's no way. And he said, way. And so, so I had my friend, I said, this is what I want you to do. Get one of my clean socks, put it in my mouth. So I put a sock in my mouth, lay on top of me so I don't move. He laid on top of my top here, and I put my thumbs up. Okay, go for it. I never felt something so painful, but I think I saw Jesus himself when he injected into that. I said, I've seen God now. But anyway, so, but it was very painful, but it did help. And I didn't care because I was determined to finish this 100-mile race. And then, so that wasn't easy. Then he wrapped me up and I finished it off, and I could move. And I guess if there was any inflammation there, and I don't know what he put in there. It could have been eye of newt, these Chinese, spider antennas or something. But, he put his elixir in there and I felt a lot better. I guess it got the inflammation down. And then, but in the 3100, there's if you want to complete these things, there's got to be a price you have to pay for it. There's a price you pay. And, so, I'm willing to pay the price because I know, there's a beginning, middle, and end to all of these, no matter how long you think they are. And so I remember getting heel blisters and painful. So when you're walking, because all the walking you did, I did. So for example, in the 3100-mile race, I think I ran about 6/10 of it and walked 4/10 of it. And because I know the whole idea is not so fast how fast you go, but how much ground you can cover in the day. And so what I did was, did a lot of walking, but fast walking, but I ended up with heel blisters, and those are awful too. So, and especially on your heels, because you can land on it every time you walk on it. So I was forced to run a lot of times. I couldn't take the pain. So I just said, well, this is a great opportunity to use my spiritual power to disconnect from the discomfort. And I also listened to music. And so I was listening to music, a lot of South African music, because pain is one signal to the brain. So I try to distract it through listening to music. And then I'd have my wife lance the deep heel blisters, and we would wrap them. But I would be forced to run because they started becoming painful. And I certainly am not a glutton for punishment. So I find different ways to overcome the discomfort. And so that was some of the 3100-mile experiences. And then some of the characters that you meet, there's some classics. Bob Wise, I'll never forget Bob Wise. And he was a great walker. And during the first 1,000-mile race, he was there. And I think he covered for the whole race about 60 miles a day. He did 900 of the 1,000 miles in 15 days. And he was one of these, kind of marching type of walkers. But he started having problems with his neck. So some of the race directors would help him. They got some toilet paper, and he had this roll of toilet paper under his chin, and then they wrapped gaffer's tape or something so it would keep his head up, because he started walking and his head's down all the time. He walked into a tree, he didn't see it all the time. So they wanted to keep him on course. But there's been so many cool experiences, and the most coolest experience I think I've ever had during a 3,100-mile race is the feeling of running forever, which means you're not in any pain, you're not in any discomfort, you're very, very fit, and you feel you could run forever. Like you could go day and night, not sleep. And a lot of times in these races, I would find, how do I get through all this tiredness that I felt? And I would get through it by just going within myself and just said, there's energy on the other side of the worst fatigue. And there is. I always seem to find it. So as tired as any ultra runner is, and when you're sleep deprived, you can find the energy. You really can, because it's there. And it's in the cosmos. So if, if you feel wiped out, there's always a way to, perk yourself up. And it's in these races, like 3,100-mile race, what's very important is your nutrition. Today's food is tomorrow's energy. So we ate like, at that time, I was not vegan, I was a vegetarian. And so I just remember speaking to one of the medical people, and I said, I think I'm losing too much weight. So he says, try some whipping cream in the food. So we, just to keep the fat.
Yeah.
And it worked. I didn't lose. I think I only lost 2 pounds for the whole race. So very high calorie foods are essential for obviously for these races. And I'm not a big believer in the gels. I believe more of the food, live food, good food, and I try to keep a lot of the electrolytes in me, because if you don't have that, then you're going to wipe out. So I try to figure ways to not wipe out and so I can enjoy the experience. A 3,100-mile race should be pleasant, not torture, so they were always ultimately pleasurable, wonderful experiences.
So was that this feeling you described before of that you could run forever? Was that something that would ebb and flow over the course of the 3,100 miles, or was it like you ran a certain amount, you reached a certain distance, and you felt that way the rest of the time, or was it something that kind of came and went over the course?
It would come and go, but not through the day. I mean, you might hit it. I guess I hit it probably around 2,000 miles. I was very fit, because you're running yourself fit. You cover 100K a day, and you do that for 2 weeks. And what's so cool, it takes about 2 weeks to get used to it, and then you're fit. It becomes like going to work. We would get up and be at the race at 6 in the morning, and then be finished 12 midnight. And one thing about sleep deprivation, a race of that length, you need about 4.5 hours of sleep. So I would get a ride home, shower, get about 4 to 4.5 hours of sleep, and do it again. And I loved it. It's just like, was it hard? Yeah, but anything worthwhile is hard, no matter how much talent one has, and I love the challenge of it, and, always looking for new challenges. I once told my mother-in-law, I said, when I'm 100, if I get there, that's the difficult part, I'm going to do a 100-mile race,
Oh my goodness.
But there's no time limit, let's see if it takes 3 days, so what? But if I get 100 years on Earth, I'm going to do 100 miles in celebration of 100 years. So.
Tell them what she said.
Are you going to go back to that 1 square block in Queens and do the 100 miles?
No. But you know what she said? I said that to her, and she said, well, at the end of the race, we're going to have an open grave for you, and we're going to kick you in there. She said, you're nuts, But I always say I'm crazy, but crazy good. I always like the fun of going long.
That is amazing. I still like you said, you can't wrap your mind around 3,100 miles. So moving along with your career, you're setting more and more records, Canadian records. Can you talk to us a little bit about, some of the world championships that you went to and what those experiences were like?
Right. Well, I went to this race called the La Rochelle 6-day race, and that was the world indoor championships, and they had it for a number of years. And so the best were there: Jean-Gilles Boussiquet, Gilbert Mannix, Joe Record, Stu Middleman, from different countries, and we would meet there. And it was an indoor race. And what was cool about this race, if anybody has read about the old pedestrian races, this was the closest thing to it. And so what happened is it's on a 200-meter indoor track. It's flat, and it's people would come in to see, thousands of people would come to see you. And it was a European race, and it was a professional race. So I was once a professional runner in my day, and there was prize money. And I brought my chiropractor with me just to keep me alive. And it was fantastic to watch a guy like Jean-Gilles Boussiquet, who would run, let's say, 140 miles the first day of a 6-day, take 1 hour sleep, and go another 100 miles straight. then take
Wow.
another hour sleep and go 100 miles straight.
Oh
And
my
these
goodness.
guys would do that. So the top guys would run over 600 miles. So, and they would pull you along. They had a very charismatic energy to them, and they were magical. Or a guy like Yanis Kouros, when you go to France and you're basically, it was the official, unofficial 48-hour World Championships in Sergères, and you're running with Yanis Kouros. Now he's going at a slower pace, and he's this Greek Australian, and he's the world's greatest that has ever lived. So you're running behind him. Maybe it was 5 miles an hour, 10K an hour for a little while, and then all of a sudden he starts moving ahead. So you're just, next thing you know, he's lapping you, and but he made it look so easy. And what the world's best do is they make things look so easy. And so it's so easy to hook into their energy, and they would hook into yours. And so we would form trains. 5, 6 runners would run behind each other, and we'd pull each other along. And then after a while, it was just like in the tour, in bicycling, what's it called? Like the peloton, they would, one would go to the front, and we would do the same thing, where someone would take the lead, do it for a little while, then drop back to the last place, and then the next one. So we kept each other going. These were competitions really of beautiful connection. So they're competitions, everybody wants to win, but we're also wanting everyone to do their best. Because if everyone does their best and we pull each other along, the standard is high. And that's the big difference I've noticed with American multi-day running and European multi-day running. In Europe, they connect with you. I noticed that in a lot of my multi-day races in the United States, everyone's out to beat each other. It's better to run with a person than against a person. And as soon as you can run with a person, you're going to even hit a higher standard. As soon as you start running against them, the energy changes. And then, I got to beat this guy, I got to beat that guy. Well, remember, dude, this is a 1,000-mile race, or this is a 600-mile race, or 1,000K race. You better be friends. We become comrades in arms. And a lot of these guys are my great friends because we joined energies and we were friends afterwards. And we're just happy for each other that we were able to help each other reach our goals. My goal was to run 500 in 6 days. John Gilles Boussiquet was to run over 950K, which is about 606 miles, and he ended up doing 640. And then I also remember Sydney to Melbourne running with Yanis Kouros the first 3 miles. And he was so great because he said to me, okay, Trishul, I hope you don't mind, I'm going to go a little bit faster pace, and I'll see you at the end. And I said, go for it, my friend. And we grabbed hands, and we really connected our energy. And then he moved along, and then he ended up running perhaps one of the greatest performances of all time: 658 miles in 5 days, 14 hours. Now, I think I did. I averaged 82 miles a day, but he'd averaged 120 a day. And
wow.
The hard thing is, okay, do it 1 day, fine. Do it 2 days, excellent. Now average that for 5 days, because we have our ups and downs. And he could move so fast. It's like there was no one like him, and I don't think there'll ever be anyone like him after that.
Right.
For another 100 years. But to run against the world's best is truly fun because, I was at the time, I set Canadian national records. I wanted to take it as far as I could for, and for a 3:02 marathoner, I, thought I was able to reach the level that I thought I could, so and we all helped each other during these multi-days. And I remember James Zerai, the great Brit, somehow he didn't bring enough socks for the 6-day race. And so, somehow something happened to his socks or something. It was down to 1 pair left. And so I remember he was telling me, so I gave him, half of my socks. And then Jean-Gilles Boussiquet, who was his competitor, gave him more. So we were all brothers in arms in these multi-day races. And, we all helped each other reach our goals, and we were so happy for each other. But we were also competitive. We wanted to do the best that we could do, and but I noticed that a lot of times in the multi-day runs that when in America these things were just me against you, and I kind of just detached myself from that. So I ended up just let me go against myself, connect more to myself than connect to the others. I always want to be happy out there, be happy and smiley, and be in a good state, a good consciousness. There's nothing worse than having, I feel terrible, and and so I would say, so you feel terrible. Turn it around, make a negative into a positive. So
I mean, you've had, again, this is just a snapshot of your career that we've talked about tonight. If you could name maybe one race or running, walking experience, doesn't even have to be a formal race, could you pick one that was, I mean, you're still, I'm not saying your career is over, you're still going very strong, but from this point, looking back, is there one that you would say was maybe your favorite, most meaningful experience? That's a loaded question. It's tough. You've done so many things, but is there something that really stands out to you?
Yes, this is the most precious race of all. There's a couple of them. Okay, in a 1,300-mile race, I was 6 hours into it. And then there's this little stray dog that started following me in Flushing Meadow Park.
Okay.
And this little stray dog kept following me mile after mile. And I would, stop, he would stop. And so I remember I was drinking water, and I saw, I said, this guy's got to drink some water. And so when I stopped for food, I gave him some of my food. So he followed me 100 miles straight, and his name was Dharma Dog. I named him Dharma. Actually, Sri Chinmay heard about this, and he called him Dharma. There's a whole big Indian tale about this. So Dharma followed me 100 miles straight, and around that time, he ended up doing, I think, about 108 miles in 30 hours, whatever.
Oh my goodness.
So people would say, this dog followed me 100 miles. And so I picked him up, and he fell asleep in my arms. And so I took him home, I showed him to my wife, and we adopted him. And he was a mixed shepherd, and he came to, I did the following spring, we entered him into the 7-day race. And so they gave him a number 4. He hit in the program, and he ended up doing, he averaged, I think, for 5 days of the 7 days, 50K a day. And he was trained. And then
he just ran on his own?
No, he ran with me. I had a
with you. Okay. I mean, he had a bib and everything.
No, I was handling him. I was not on I had him on a leash. We would go around the 1 mile loop. And so he would do about 10 miles straight. Then we'd stop for a break. He would break some sticks along the way, so, but Dharma, we had the dorms there. So we put him in the dorms. And so Dharma ended up doing I think about 45K a day, something like 185 miles in the 7-day race. Now, what was interesting, he got at about 100, I was trying to get him to 200 miles. At 180 miles, he started balking. He was bored. So we took him, I swear to God, out of 1 mile loop. He had more sense than I did. I don't have any sense. My dog had absolutely more sense than I did. So he decided he had enough. So we took him around the opposite direction. He went for a few laps. Then he froze up. He said, I had enough. So as soon as I took him off the leaf, I started throwing the ball. He had all the energy in the world. So the most wonderful thing was my dog, Dharma Dog, following me, and then entering him in the 7-day race. And he beat some of the competitors,
Really?
Absolutely. And we had a cot for him, so my wife and I, we were his handlers. We were his, but he came to a lot of the races with me. And rest in peace, Dharma. He was my training partner too. So he's forever in my heart and thoughts.
That is an amazing story.
Yeah. So that's the story of that's a special race for me, the 7-day race. And plus I also won it in 1993. You know, I remember coming second, then first. So, you know, and Dharma was a part of that. So,
That's amazing.
Voila.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I know I'm keeping an eye on the live chat. We have a bunch of questions already. So I'm going to start asking them to you so we don't run out of time. So let me scroll back up to our first question. It was very early on from, I believe it was from Bailey Lewis. Yes. Okay. Bailey wants to know, do you have words or suggestions for beginning marathoners toying with the idea of jumping to an ultra? Just getting into this type of things now. Oh, that's not Bailey's. I'm sorry. That's from Benjamin Yao. Wants to know that. So words or suggestions for beginning marathoners toying with the idea of ultras?
It's the same training, marathon training for ultras. All you do is the same training, and pick a race, maybe a race that doesn't have a time restraint. So let's say a 24-hour race, and you don't have to do the whole thing. Just go as you please. Remember, your pace is going to be your training pace. So don't go out and race it. Go out and just try to just run and walk and experience, and don't put any limit on it. Oh, I got to do, 50 miles. No, just go and just do it. Just do it and see how far you can go. And when you're tired, sit down. And then, just take the bite of the apple. You don't have to consume the apple and have, a great meal out of it. No, just take a bite of the apple and taste the flavor of the apple and see if it's for you. How's that?
That's great. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Another question is, what type of shoes do you run in? I'm assuming maybe it's different for road and trail. Do you have your different go-to shoes?
Love Hoka. Now the difference back 40 years ago and today is technology is much better now, of course, from cotton shirts to now wick away socks and shirts. And back then we start off with Nike waffle shoes. They were just thin-soled shoes. Now there's the Hoka shoes. I love padded shoes, nothing like Hoka. And they're not my sponsor. I'm just saying I love the Hoka shoes. Bondi for training, and for the trails, the, what are they called? A senior moment.
That's okay.
Oh gosh.
Are they Challengers or Speed Goats?
No, they're not any of those. It's
okay.
Named after the beach.
Bondi?
No, Bondi is one of the beaches. What's the other beach in California? Oh God, it's one of the trail Hoka shoes. I just love Stinson.
There you go.
There we are. Sorry. So the Stinsons, love them, and I love the tread on them, and they're comfortable, and my feet don't hurt in them at all. So highly recommend the Hokas.
I'm on the same page. Yeah, I love Hokas as well. That's what I run in. Okay, Janice Shernetz wants to know, what is your diet like during training, recovery, and during races? This could be an entire podcast episode by itself.
I'll just sum it up. I'm a vegan. I started off as a vegetarian. I started when I was 16 years old. I'm now 64. And then I became a vegan 3 years ago. And best recovery I ever had was going vegan. In fact, I'm after being prolific in the last third. So I've done this for 42 years. So let's say I can go 62 years. I think last year I only did 6 because of COVID. The year before I might have done 15, 16 ultras, and the recovery was fantastic. So I'm whole food, plant-based, and I think that's the way to go. Whole food, plant-based, and not that much fat do you need. And I feel very, very healthy with that. So a vegan diet, but you can be an unhealthy vegan or a healthy vegan. Remember, unhealthy vegan would eat French fries and Coca-Cola. But I'm a whole food, plant-based athlete.
Okay. So I'll follow up with a question for that. What does that look like during an ultra event for you? What's in your pack, if you carry a pack, or on your aid station, what are you taking?
I'm taking sweet potatoes, or they'd always have this at the races. And also, my wife makes me these things they're called, I like Scott Jurick's recipes. He was also a vegan. So the Scott Jurick bars, or I'll take, my wife will make oatmeal cookies, and but there's no eggs, or I keep away from the eggs and the obviously the milk products that go. But the live food, I always love live food. Live food's best for me. And whatever they have at the races, if this is one thing I've noticed, most races have terrible food. So I always bring my own food. They have all the sugary stuff, and M&Ms, and then they have their chocolate bars and their potato chips. Yuckers. I can't stand that stuff.
Okay, so I'm a race director, right? So you tell me, what if you could make the aid station, what would be on the table? What should be at every aid station?
Okay, since they're ultras, soup, any type of soup. Now, there's people that aren't vegetarians, have the chicken soup, or have tomato. I think a great one, because there's good to high salt content, which is important for the adrenal glands. I would have a tomato soup, a sweet potato soup. Like, for example, he did a great job, Rick and McNulty, and they have always soup there. And like for the race they just put on Saturday, they had vegan soup. So a vegan soup. Remember, a lot of the race directors forget that there's a lot of us are vegetarian or vegan, and they might not say anything. Put vegan food up there. Put sweet potatoes. You can even have pasta, but live food. Put some live food. You can put the junk out there, and but if you have good fuel, you're going to perform well. Do you put crappy fuel in a racing car? It's just going to not perform as well as a good fuel. And exactly. I'm a big believer in that.
That's awesome. Well, I know me and my team are very excited for our race on April 10th, because this is the first time in over a year where we're going to have the full aid station with the 50 miler. So I am taking notes right now. We're going to make sure we got some of those options out there. Okay, we got another question. This is from Anthony. He wants to know, did you talk about the Great New York 100? I see that you're doing a training run on April 4th. Is that still going on even since it's Easter, or has it been rescheduled?
Got to speak to Phil McCarthy. He schedules all that.
Okay.
I take care of the 100K point, the 100K stuff during the races, and I'll be at the start. But Phil does all the training. Just go on the Facebook page, and if it's still happening, it's happening, because Phil will announce it's not happening. Phil's very responsible that way. And so, he wants to make sure everybody tastes the course. So he divides it up, and he's there with them, with everyone. So, and it's a fun event to go to. But if he says it's happening, it's happening. So, to answer your question, our TGNY it's an urban adventure run, and it's a race, but there's going to be a first, second, and third, but it's really an urban adventure. It's just get to see all of New York City, places you wouldn't go. I mean, really cool places.
Definitely. Okay, another question is, what do you have on your calendar for the rest of 2021 in terms of races? I know, race schedules are fluid, but are there events that you are signed up for the rest of the year?
Oh, absolutely. These days you have to sign up way in advance. In the old days, you would sign up a day before, but because there's a lot of these lottery systems, and there's people sign up very fast. So yes, I have 12 planned this year. So I did number 1. I did the New Jersey Ultra Festival. Next one is shore to shore 50K race. Then I'm doing the 6-day event at 3 days at the fair. I have the dates of these. Forbidden Forest 30-hour trail race. Then I'm doing a 24-hour road race. And then the Wildcat Ridge Romp 50K. Labor Pain 12-hour trail race. Rock the Ridge 50 miler. Tesla Hurt 50K trail race. The 30-hour trail race, the TARP Ghost Train. And then the following month, the Hamster Wheel 30-hour trail race. And then the Haim Sport 100. And
Woo!
so there you go. So I really want to, it's like one a month. I have one a month plan, and that seems to be enough time to recover from them. And but I highly recommend Rock the Ridge. Fantastic race. It's on
Yes.
it's on carriage trails, and it's just so beautiful there. But all the races are special, and I like to get that 100-miler. My first 100-miler was done in 1981, so I look forward to running over 100 miles 40 years later. So 2021, and that would be kind of cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We've got another question here from June Lynn. You mentioned to me you're going to write a book about your running. Have you initiated that? I'm looking forward to reading it.
Absolutely. I've made a lot of notes, but I need help from somebody who can write. I'm a stat man. I'm not a writer. And I have this woman in Canada considering doing something, but about 5 years down the line. But I definitely want to write a book, and then it can be detailed about the adventure of the whole thing. It's not about stats. I think stats, but it's who you met and what were the world's best like, and what made them tick. Because I always call myself a running spectator. So I'm on the track with them, but I watched them, the world's best, what it was like doing what they did, and like how easy they made it look, and I often think, are they suffering? And they probably were, and I thought that they weren't. So I said, oh, they all look good. Yes, but I am considering absolutely going to write some book, and talk about my different experiences, what the stories behind my Canadian national records, and there's an accomplishment, but what did it take to do that accomplishment?
Right.
Yeah.
That would be, you definitely need to do that. I have 2 thumbs up. I would definitely read it, and we'll have you back on the podcast to do a little book tour.
Right. And there's a great book for people that haven't read it. My friend Jared Beasley, In Search of El Howie. He was a friend of mine. I think it's a fantastic book, and it's an interesting story. It's about a man that has mental illness and how he did these incredible distances. He didn't know it at the time, but Jared tells the story. So if anyone's looking for a good book to read, In Search of El Howie. I'm plugging it because I think it's a great book, and it really shows the dynamics and the depth of what goes into a guy that is running away from things. I'm the type of guy that wants to run towards a goal. Some people are trying to run away from something. So I think he was running away from his mental illness, but I found it very, very interesting because ultimately we're all crazy.
Ain't that the truth?
There we go. Are we crazy good, or are we just crazy?
We all are, and definitely in the ultra running community, there's a different level of crazy, I think.
Yeah, how crazy good are you? Or
right.
Downright nuts.
That's awesome. Okay, I've got another question for you. Do you have a race or a running experience that's on your bucket list that you have not done yet? Is there something that you still, besides your 100-mile run on your 100th birthday? I know you mentioned that, but is there something else that, it's on your list, the back of your mind, something that you still want to accomplish, or somewhere you want to go to run? What do you think?
I haven't given that thought because I'm focused on doing 500 ultras. So to me, it's not so important. Or, as I said, I'm very goal oriented. So is there a special race I want to do? They're all special. I know that's a dumb way to say it, but
no.
They're all special. I'm just so grateful to finish them. And each one offers a different challenge, and each day might be different. So every ultra is special, and they really are. Some, as far as the bucket list go, I've done them, been there and done them all. And otherwise I would have done them already. So to me, put on an ultra, and if I'm invited or I can get in, it's special. There's, like I haven't tried this year, for example. I like trying new adventures. So Ghost Train, never tried the Ghost Train 30 hour, heard great things about it, or the Hamster Wheel 30 hour, which is the next ultra after that. And they're in New Hampshire. I said, oh, that's cool. I've never run an ultra in New Hampshire. So new adventures, whenever they pop up, and if they're on the schedule, then I can do it. I love it, but at this point in my running career, I don't like the time restraint ones where you better do 100 miles in 24 hours and there's a rugged course. That doesn't interest me anymore. That challenge, I would just want the satisfaction of finishing them and being really happy out there. And let's say this weekend, there was a 50K, 50 mile, 100K, 100 mile. We all have 30 hours to finish it. So I said, man, I'll pick the 50K. There's no time restraint. I could fall there. So it's just, and then I'm really happy. So the key to me is finding the happiness. And that would be the race that I'm after, where I'm happy, so it's not so much I have to try one specific race, but it's more about finding a race that I'll be happy in. Those are on my bucket list.
Right. I know you just talked about not wanting time constraints, but I couldn't help but think when I was listening, to you chat, how you would do at the Big's Backyard Ultra type style. Has anyone ever asked you about that? The event where
I would win it.
I think that you would. Is it something you would ever try?
Well, yeah, out there. See, a lot of us multi-day runners, I look at that and it's like Al Howie. If I was a team with Al Howie at the time, he had the world record for going straight. Like I think he did 300K. I think Dean Carnazzi did fairly well. But to do 4 miles an hour, I was really good at sleep deprivation.
Right.
And I had enough speed to do 4 miles an hour. I think I would win it. I think I could go, God bless these people that have done it. They're phenomenal. I'm in awe of them. But in my prime, and I was 29 years old, and I covered about, 538 miles for 6, and I was in my peak form, and I wanted that. And you put some type of carrot there that that I wanted to taste. You could, unless you had Yanis, or same with Kuros or Busi K. You put a little. Let's say you put some money behind there, we would find a way. We wouldn't care. And if we hallucinated, so what? I felt sorry for the guy this year. I felt bad for him. The hallucinations were all bad. We know we're going to hallucinate, but I enjoyed the hallucinations. So I would have welcomed them. I was used to them. And do I think I could have won it? Perhaps. You can, until you do it. But I certainly would not have been afraid of it. And I think I could have won it. Yeah, but would that have been my goal? No, my goal would have probably said, can I go 4 or 5 days straight? These guys are going 72 hours. Can I reach, 4 or 5 days, and, I wouldn't be not afraid to try. I'd be probably the first to start. Now, I'm old and gray and only in the way.
Oh, come on.
To me, that's not the goal. The goal to me, the goal is finding the satisfaction and happiness in each and every race.
That's phenomenal. I'm so glad you're sharing all this. We here at Sassquad, we always have a lot of new runners that come to our events, and we really emphasize that pace. The focus isn't on the pace. Yes, we give awards out to our top finishers, but like you're saying, we really want the experience to be positive for everyone who's coming, and for it to go beyond just the miles. We're working on building a community of people who, support each other. And I just so appreciate all you've shared tonight, because, you've really driven home the point of, the community that you've found in running is very powerful.
Right. And the community, I met my wife.
Yes.
At a 6-day race at the World Championships. I found a beautiful companion with my dog, and at a 1,300-mile race, and I met you know, some incredible people that I've, you know, I can name 1,000 of them, and they become some of my best friends. And you know, when in the thick of competition, they become your brothers, and that's very cool. You know, 10K, one's out to skin the other person. You know, here we share, and we're out to do our best. And but sometimes when the the pieces drop, we'll stop and pick up those pieces and give it back to the person. So that's what great sportsmanship and being a gentleman out there. That's what it's all about. You know, brothers in arms. You know,
it's phenomenal. Trishul, thank you so much for coming on the interview tonight. It's been, I mean, it's actually 9:15. That flew by really fast. So thank you so much for sharing your time and so many words of wisdom with us.
Okay, well, thank you thank you to all the people that are listening. Thank you for listening. You know, I hope I could make the runs, whatever you run you're going to do next, fun. You know, it's like, you know, enjoy the next ultra.
Absolutely. Well, I'd encourage you, Trishul, to hop on this Facebook recording and just scroll through the comments, because you had so many people were saying hello and they're so glad you're sharing. I'll name a couple of them. I see John Beck said it. Michael Ortiz popped in. Carolina McWright. There's just a whole host of people who have been popping in throughout the night, saying hello and thank you to you.
Peace and love to all of them.
Awesome. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to learn more about Sassquad Trail Running, you can visit us online, sassquadtrailrunning.com. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you want to learn more about who we are, just reach out and we will get you connected. So until we see you again, keep it squatchy.